What is going on, guys? I'm Pete and welcome to Retro Game Attic. This seems like a story we've heard for years, but collecting retro games is expensive. Like to the point where it's super prohibitive and may not even be worth it anymore. There's always talk of the retro game bubble bursting and trending prices downward, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. There's a few options for finding retro games. You can hit up thrift shops, yard sales, or scour your local Facebook Marketplace / Craigslist, but all these options are time consuming and come with varying levels of success. You can also try local retro game shops, which I suggest you do, and support them, but you are paying a premium and it really isn't realistic to buy entire collections from these places unless you're super loaded. And the last option, of course, is good old eBay. Now, eBay is a double-edged sword. You have the convenience of buying from home, but with that convenience, you're competing with a larger pool of buyers. And due to eBay seller overhead, you're paying a premium for that online shopping experience. I made a video back in 2017 offering some of my eBay tips, but the online landscape is ever-changing with competitors like Mercari and whatnot popping up. eBay is still top dog in my opinion, and there's still good video game deals out there. They're just a bit harder to come by. With that being said, let's hop into my tips for finding cheap video game deals on eBay. My first tip is to do your research. Get an idea of the game's going rate, because not all games are expensive. So in order to do this, I would cross-reference with Price Charting or GameEye. Now these are both great sites that take the averages of eBay sales for the past X amount of days and give you a good idea as to what the game's going rate is. I myself tend to use Price Charting mostly, but GameEye is a good one as well. And there's also GameStop Retro, and I find that their prices seem to be pretty competitive with eBay prices, so it really depends how thorough you want to be. You could check out one of these or all three, really it's up to you. You can always just circumvent this and check recently completed and sold items on eBay. Now this won't be as accurate as Price Charting or GameEye because you're really not skimming through as much data as those sites, but it might give you a bit of an idea how much the game goes for. And probably the most important aspect of research is check for counterfeits or reproduction cartridges. A lot of older NES, Super NES, N64, and Game Boy games are commonly reproduced now. So if you do find one of these, there may be a reason that it's a good price. Another telltale sign of a counterfeit game is if an old game is listed as new on eBay, so just be mindful of that. You can ask the seller to confirm or send a photo of the game board if you're really suspect. And if you're still not sure if the game is authentic or not, there's guides out there that show commonly reproduced games and kind of show the differences between the two, so you can search for those as well. Now that you have a good idea of what the game's worth, we can start our search. Check for bad or misrepresentative photos. Sometimes eBay sellers don't take the best photos. They may be blurry or obscured, or it might just be hard to determine the condition of the item itself. So listings with bad photos might not get as much traffic or priority in the eBay algorithm, so it's important to skim through those as well. And a side note to that too, if you do find a listing with bad photos, check out the seller's other items as well. They may have additional video game listings with bad photos that you can benefit from. Next up is incomplete titles or missing keywords. So say you're looking for Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble on Super Nintendo. And just as an example, say if somebody lists this game who really isn't well versed on games or just Nintendo stuff in general, they may post this as Donkey Kong 3 and call it a day. So these incomplete titles may work out in your favor because again, they'll have less priority in the eBay algorithm. Potentially, if somebody's looking for a Donkey Kong Country 3, that incomplete title of Donkey Kong 3 might not show up in their search. And then next up is using the best offer feature. Now I find this one to work out in my favor quite often. You'll have a seller that lists a game for a certain price but also has a best offer option. Now I tend to not go too far below what they're asking. I'd say maximum 20%, and that's still kind of insulting. It depends how much of a deal you want to go for. I mean, if you want to shoot somebody a super lowball offer, it might get automatically denied, or they might take it. It's really up to you. I find myself using this option more often than not. Like I said, I tend to go like 10 to 20% less than the asking price, and most of the time it works out, so it's worth a shot. Next up is wholesale lots. Now these were big on eBay back in the day. I'd say now they're not as prominent, but they're still out there. I usually just tend to go on eBay and just type right into the search bar. I'll type in something like NES game lot and see what shows up. You are paying more up front, but again, you're getting a whole lot of games, so usually it works out in the buyer's favor because the games end up being cheaper than if you bought them all individually. I'd say if you're starting from scratch or trying to build up a collection pretty quickly, do not underestimate the power of wholesale lots. Relatively cost-effective way to build up your collection quickly and snag a good amount of games for a cheaper price. And then next up is just the good old-fashioned way. It's not so much a tip, it's kind of how eBay worked back in the day, but it is just using your watch list and bid sniping the auction at the end. It's a little bit of a frowned upon practice with eBay, but let's face it, most people who use that site do end up bid sniping at the end. So what you do is find a game that you like, add it to your watch list, and I'd say within the last 10 seconds of the auction, put your highest bid out there. This is the most risky route to go because you do have the potential of somebody outbidding you, and depending how close you are to the end of the auction, you might actually miss out on the game. So just keep that in mind. And next up is the title typo trick. And all this is searching for items with misspelled titles. You can do it manually by inputting them each individually on eBay, or you can use an external misspelled auction finder. There's a ton of different ones out there, and I tend to use typobay.com. So you navigate to typobay.com, and then you have just two options, search for and search at. So in our case, let's search for Nintendo. You can see that we spelled it correctly, and we're going to search on ebay.com. So we'll click search on eBay, and then we'll click here to see results. This will take you back to eBay. And as you can see in the search bar, it came up with all the misspelling variations of Nintendo. And just so you don't have to navigate to TypoBay each time, be sure to click the heart to save this search, and then turn on updates. That way you'll be notified each time there's a new misspelled item posted. And then as we scroll down here, there's going to be a ton of crap. You're really going to have to wade through a lot. So you're not going to find a great deal every time you do this, but definitely be sure to go through each and every auction that you can. And if you're on the hunt, it's kind of like a fun little thing to do, to search for like the needle in the haystack. I found a ton of cheap games with this method throughout the years, and I highly suggest you use it. If you frequent eBay, they're going to be your best friend. Trust me. And then next up is just to stay vigilant. So obviously using all these tips and tricks and then wading through all these eBay auctions is a huge time commitment. I kind of go through with spurts. Sometimes I just enjoy the thrill of the hunt and I want to find a game for like $10 or $15 cheaper than I normally would. And there's other times where I just want to play a game and I don't really feel like searching for deals. So usually when I go that route, I'll search for the game, look for buy it now listings, and then I'll just sort from lowest to highest and kind of go from there. It really depends which way you want to go, because like I said, searching through all these eBay listings is a huge time commitment and it might not be worth it to some people. It really depends how much effort you want to put into this. And for some people, it's just the thrill of the hunt, and I totally get it. It's fun. Last up, this isn't so much of a tip, but definitely keep it in mind, is just luck and patience. Because eBay is global, you're dealing with a lot of competition here, and it really just boils down to luck in certain instances. You might just have to be in the right place at the right time. Sometimes an auction might just be listed for a good price and you happen to snag it right at that moment. It really just boils down to luck, like I said. And then the other aspect is just patience. It's really important to have patience if you find yourself potentially spending more than you'd want to, or if the auction just seems a little sus. Depending on the game, I think it's very important to remember that there will be more listings. It just might take more time to get what you're looking for. And that was my updated list of tips and tricks on how to find cheap retro games on eBay. Hopefully these tips help you find a good deal on a game that you're looking for. And best of luck in your search. I always hear doom and gloom with game prices, but there's still hope out there. Have any of my tips worked for you? Is there anything I missed? Please be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching Retro Game Addict. I'm still in awe that the channel has grown so much this year. It's thanks to you all, so again, thank you for rocking with me.